The stage is set for the coronation ceremony of new Amazulu king Misuzulu kaZwelithini. He succeeds the throne following the death of his father, King Zwelithini, last year. The ceremonial entering of the kraal takes place this weekend. It's an important ritual in Zulu culture which signifies that a new king has been crowned. For more on the process and cultural significance of this weekend's coronation, I'm joined by Professor Sihawukele Ngubane from the University of KZN. Thank you very much, Professor, for your time this evening. So firstly, tell us why it's so absolutely crucial that despite the progress of time, that we maintain and preserve these cultural rites of passage.
It is part, culture is part of us, and it is part of our well-being, and it is part of our religious belief system. So it's very important that we observe all the cultural practices as part of our custom as the Zulu people.
So this is taking place amidst struggles within the Zulu house, a contestation amid contenders for the kingship. And we know that another contender had entered the kraal previously. Is that going to put a damper on this weekend ceremony, in your opinion?
Not at all, because the preparations are well ahead, and I think we must not concern ourselves with what happened last weekend, because the ceremony tomorrow is authentic, because King Misuzulu is the king that has been identified and also has been recognized by the family and by the provincial government, and his name is gazetted, so it's not going to be affected by what happened last weekend.
Talk to us a little bit about the symbolism of the kraal.
A kraal is a sacred place for African people. It is a place where people who are living communicate with the dead. And also, it is there to connect spiritually. So that's the significance of a kraal, and this is like a prayer house where people come and pray. We have what we call umsamu, and umsamu is where we use the place as a temple for most African people. So it is very, very sacred and very important for African people.
As part of today's events, the king went on a ritual lion hunt. And one can only imagine that 100+ years ago, hunting a lion was pretty everyday. These days, it's not so everyday, so it bears talking about. And one can only imagine that no unnecessary risks would have been taken with the safety of the king. So tell us about that process of hunting the lion and maintaining that fine balance between adhering to ritual and traditional protocols while still, looking after conservation efforts.
Yeah, I know that in a sense of socially accepted, some forms of animal harm are an integral part of culture and ethnic identity. So what has happened, it is part of our religion, and it is part of our ethnic identity. So we know that we have not developed similar attitude towards animal welfare, but in this case, we are spiritually connected to animals, and some of us have got animals that are treated as totems, where we use them for our religious purposes. So in this case, it is acceptable that when you are going to be a king, you must prove yourself and demonstrate that you are capable to lead a nation. So that is why our kings are called Imbobe. Imbobe means a lion. So the ability to kill a lion is symbolic. It symbolizes power. So it means he has now assumed power because he managed to kill the animal successfully.
I don't think hunting is the question here. I come from a family where hunting is, it's part of normal life. My dad goes hunting quite regularly and brings home, meat for biltong and meat, and that's not an issue. But I think what becomes a question here is the ethical treatment during such a kind of a hunt, because we have a history in South Africa where animals and trophy hunting, especially from visiting tourists, has become somewhat of a controversial issue. Talk to us about those processes and how that plays a part here, if it does at all.
But I think this is different because you are not hunting a lion for food. You are hunting a lion for a purpose, for fulfilling a purpose of a cultural requirement for one to be a king. And you know that lions are not eaten. We don't eat lions. But when you hunt, like tourists, they hunt bugs and other animals that they can use for biltong and meat, but you can't eat a lion. So a lion is a symbol of power, and when you harm a lion, it's painful to animals' welfare, but if it is used for the purpose of culture, which is part of the right of African people in South Africa, we are allowed to practice our culture. And our culture has to do with animals in one way or another. When we get married, we use animals, we kill animals for the particular purpose of culture.
We look forward to tomorrow's ceremony. We're going to be bringing you all the details of that ceremony as much as we can bring you. We won't probably not be able to enter the kraal ourselves with our cameras, but if you're interested in that ceremony, stay tuned to ENCA tomorrow. Thank you very much for your time, Professor Sihaukele Ngubane from the University of KZN, giving us some insights into those cultural practices taking place tomorrow.